Hey, hello everyone. Today we are going to see what is the problem with callbacks in JavaScript. Okay, so we know that callback functions are very useful when we want to implement something asynchronous in JavaScript. So we can have synchronous callbacks as well as asynchronous callbacks. So let's say set timeout is an asynchronous API and it takes in a callback function as an input and a timer. Okay, so how does it happen is this callback gets registered in the web API environment and the timer is started. Okay, after 5 seconds, this callback is ready to be executed. So it moves to the callback queue. And this event loop keeps on checking the call stack and keeps on checking the callback queue. If the call stack is empty, then it moves the task in the top task in the queue to the call stack. And this is how the set timeout callback will be executed. So let's quickly see what happens when you run this program. Hi and people gets printed. After 5 seconds, you'll see hello. See, hello gets printed. Okay, so this is an asynchronous operation where you have to wait for a certain time and then you have to execute the program. So this is asynchronous operation. Now we'll see, let's say we are developing an e-commerce website. So we have a cart. Cart has shoes, cart has dresses, and cart has phones. Now, let's say we want to have a create order API that takes in cart object. Okay. Then we have something called proceed to payment. To payment. Okay. Then we have something called show summary and show summary. After show summary, we have update wallet. Okay, so these are all asynchronous operations. Okay, these will take some 5 seconds, this can take 7 seconds, this can take 10 seconds, and so on. Each one can take its own sweet time, and but there is a dependency between them. Okay, so proceed to payment can only happen when create order has been successfully done. Similarly, show summary can only happen when payment is done, and update wallet can only happen when show summary is done. So how do we do it is what we can do it. Let's say we want to make sure we want to get it done after create order has passed, right? So what we'll do, we'll pass it, we'll wrap it inside a callback function. Okay, control X, control B. Okay, then we can pass callback function may we have done. Now we'll pass this entire function. Okay, one second. We'll pass this function as a callback to create order. Okay, anonymous function. Okay, then we proceed to payment. Okay, wonderful. Now, what happens is this proceed to payment. Now we have, as a developer, we have written this API, create order, and we have passed proceed to payment that, okay, you call my proceed to payment whenever you feel like. Okay, we are sitting back, we are relaxed as a developer that, okay, we have written the API. Now it is the responsibility of create order API to call my proceed to payment API, right? So this creates an inversion of control. We have given the control of my program to create order API. Now this create order API can be written in some other service, some other external world, and may be written by some new developer or an intern. We don't know how many bugs it has, right? But proceed to payment has been now given to create order. So we cannot trust this kind of environment. Okay, similarly, if you want to have uh, show summary, so we can give this as a callback. Show summary, right? This as a callback. Still, this can also take a function, and it can take update wallet. So if you can see here, what is happening here is a nesting kind of structure is happening. Can you see that? This is called as callback hell, this kind of structure. So the code it should scale downwards. It should become big, lengthy downwards. It is becoming big on the right side. Okay, it is expanding horizontally rather than vertically. So now this is not a very good way of approaching things. Two problems. What are the two problems? One is inversion of control. Yes, and second is callback hell, also known as pyramid of doom. Okay, these are the two problems. So we are blindly trusting any other API to call it. Now this API create order can call it or cannot call it. And if calls it, maybe it can call it multiple times. We don't want that to happen. Right? So this is the Hello people, today we are going to see what are promises in JavaScript. So in the last video we saw that how callbacks can be very problematic. Problems with callbacks are inversion of control and then the callback hell, nested callbacks one inside the other. You know, we have seen a lot of such code written in production, but this is very messy and very difficult to debug. So now let's say if I have to create the same create order API, how I would write it is constant. Now this create API is going to return me a promise. Okay, create order and cart. This is going to return me a promise. Promise is an object that stores the result of an asynchronous operation. Okay, so when JavaScript executes this line, so promise would have got an object in which data is undefined as of now. It's an empty object. Okay, it's an empty object. Now, when the asynchronous operation finishes execution, at that point of time, this promise object will have all the data that is required to be used. Understood? So initially, this promise object is going to be returned with empty value. There's going to be no value, and the status is going to be pending. Later, when this asynchronous operation completes execution, that point of time, this promise object is going to have all the data required. Okay, and similarly, promise dot then we are using dot then method to see what happens when you want to when data is there. What do you want to do? We want to proceed to payment, right? This is a good way. Create order is not defined. Okay. Create order is not defined. Okay. Create function. Create order. Console.log. Creating order. Okay, because create order does not return a promise as of now. Let's say if I want to return a promise, how do I do that? So let's say constant p is equals to new promise, and this takes a function which accepts two parameters, resolve and reject methods functions, and there's this body. So simply you want to return p, right? See, hey, people is printed, hello is printed. Okay, So now so you'll say that okay, Ankita, why we are still using callbacks? Then what is the whole purpose of getting into promises, making uh, promises also involve callbacks. See, my friend, there's a difference between attaching a callback and passing a callback. So when you pass it, you give the responsibility to other person. Now JavaScript, as soon as this promise gets the data, then this callback will be called, and for sure it will be called once, exactly once. This is a beautiful promise and trust given to JavaScript by, I mean, given by JavaScript to us, that your callback is going to be called once and only once. Promises handles this very beautifully. Control lies with us. Now, let's dive deep into this. Okay, there is this GitHub API. Let's see some more examples of promises. What happens? Let's say there is this constant GitHub API, GitHub API example. Okay. Now, one second. Fetch is a asynchronous API that is provided by browser. We'll use fetch to get this API. Okay, const users is equals to fetch GitHub API. Okay. Now we'll put a debugger here. Sources. Did we save it? Okay, fetch. I'll put a debugger here. Now refresh it. See, promise is there. Promise, and it is in the state of pending because yet data is not received. Okay, now if I run it, what happens in the console? Let me do a console log users. Let me do a console.log. It's a pending state. Now we do a console log. This promise object is there. See, this is a glitch in by Chrome browser. The promise states the state is pending, but if you see the state, it is actually fulfilled. The data has been received, and response is also generated. There's a way how to generate the data from this body. We'll do it later. As of now, we got an understanding, right? Initially, the state is pending when there is no data in the promise object, and when the async operation completes, there is a data in the promise object, and the state is fulfilled. Okay, so you can also understand that. Also, it is very important to know that promise object is immutable. You cannot modify it. So you can blindly pass in the promise data, right? You can pass it across the program, and you can have the guarantee that nobody can change it. Okay, so promise object is immutable. So once again, I would like to summarize what is a promise. Promise is a placeholder that gets the result of an asynchronous task, and it is also a container for a future value. And in MDN docs, so promise is there is this beautiful definition. The promise object represents the eventual completion or failure of an asynchronous operation and its resulting value. So, how many states are there? Promise is in one of the three states: pending, initial state, fulfilled, or rejected.